Good evening. Thanks for joining us on the News on 90 International. I'm Ruth Aguele. Let's bring you the headlines. African continent celebrates day amidst coronavirus pandemic. Southeast governors meet in Enugu ask for more testing kits to curtail the spread of coronavirus. And more Eid al-Fitr celebrations across the country. The 25th of every year is marked as World African Day. The day is set aside to commemorate the foundation of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, now African Union. The day is intended to celebrate and acknowledge the successes of the Union from its creation on May 25, 1963, fight against colonialism, apartheid, as well as progress that Africa has made, while reflecting upon the common challenges that the continent faces in a global environment. This year's celebrations will happen virtually and online due to the massive impact of COVID-19 on the continent and the world under the theme, Silencing the Guns, Creating Conducive Conditions for Africa's Development and Intensifying the Fight Against the Coronavirus Pandemic. And joining me in the studio now is Dr. Tunji John Asaolu, Nigerian representative at the 3rd Permanent General Assembly, African Union, to speak on the African Day. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Asaolu.
Thank you for having me.
And Eid Mubarak. I don't know if you're celebrating. Okay, so let's begin this way. 57 years down memory lane, can you say AU has been able to achieve unity among African people as well as socio-economic freedom from foreign dominion and exploitation?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think down the lane, 57 years ago, I can authoritatively say that African Union have achieved the set objective that is before in the sense that a day today is a day that our founding father came together to lay the foundations of African unity. I think it's a day of pride, and it's a day of freedom for all of us, and we are proud of celebrating today. Yes, we have achieved the unity because we have put a lot of strategies in place. For example, the Africa Agenda 2063, which is Africa we want, is a strategy that we call a strategy of development. Half of the century, which is 50 years ago, we have focused on integrations and a focus on peace and security. And we now set a target for ourselves that in the next 50 years, where we now clock a century, where do we want to see ourselves? So we have come out with a strategy, which we call Africa Agenda 2063, which is a strategy of development. And of course, we have also come out with what we call Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is where we have a common market in Africa. It's still pointing out to the unity. And of course, we also have what is called the Protocol of Free Movement. The Protocol of Free Movement is when a daughter or a son of Africa can wake up from Nigeria and find yourself in any part of Africa country without any visa. So these are the things that pointed towards the unity. So I can assure you that, yes, we have achieved this over the years.
Dr. Asaolu, the theme for this year is very key. It says, silencing the guns, creating conducive conditions for Africa's development and intensifying the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. How do you think we can achieve this?
Yeah, it is something that we have been achieving. I think so far, since the beginnings of this coronavirus in Africa, we have come together, that our leaders have come together, have come up with a strategy which we call Africa Joint Continental Strategy for COVID-19 outbreak. And the result of what we are seeing, for example, in Nigeria today, which is gave back to the presidential task force on COVID-19, is as a result of the implementing of this strategy. We are doing our best, and we see all over, for example, the African Union's Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, we keep on having a weekly series in collaboration with Africa Development Bank, or now we can also sensitize the citizen. I think so far, so good. The African Union, we have done the best. those that are belittled in Africa are also disappointed because they believe that once this thing enter Africa, Africa will be like, we will not be able to contain this. And I think they are very disappointed in the way that African people are handling the matters.
From what you're saying, is it part of what AU has been doing so far in assisting member countries in containing the spread of the virus and the well-being of the people?
Yes, the members country, is part of the, AU is not standing alone without the member states. So what effort that the member states is also doing, I think is collectively, is what is making up to the effort of what African Union is doing. The African Union is just to lay the strategy, to give them the template of what is to do, and each member have to key into that strategy. For example, the African Center for Disease Control is a dedicated agency of the African Union that survive this thing, and down the line, the NCDC is actually implementing the strategy of Africa CDC.
All right, now going forward, as African continent celebrates this another day, another year, what do you hope to see in the future for the continent and her people? What we want to see in the future is, we talk about unity. We are looking at how because Africa people, what we aspire for is the integrated, peaceful, and prosperous Africa. So we are looking at, in the nearer future, where we can be a United States of Africa, where we can have a single currencies, where we can have a common passport, like I said, where every citizen can wake up from wherever the citizens of their origin without any visa and find themselves in any country that they want to be, that we have the right of occupancy, the right to do business without anybody victimizing them, without anybody asking them which country are they from. We want to see each and every one of us as a citizen of Africa without being victimizing, without being undermined, without being looking at the colors of where we come from and all the rest. I think this is where we are headed to, and I can assure you that soon as we get there. Yes, indeed, and together we can overcome as a continent. Thank you very much, Dr. Tunji John Asah-Olu.
Thank you for having me once again.
Right, he's the Nigerian representative at the 3rd Permanent General Assembly, African Union. Still on the African Day, the need for all African leaders to work together towards bringing Africa out of COVID-19 has been stressed during the Tony Elumelu 2nd edition of the UBA Africa 2020 conversation. The theme of the conversation is growth, job and sustainable development amidst a global pandemic. Tony Elumelu and other panelists say many Africans are being affected as a result of COVID-19, hence the need to provide health insurance, sanitation, hygiene and water. They also called for entrepreneurial development and youth empowerment.
Youth and ensuring creation of jobs and economic opportunities even during this difficult time.
The message that this COVID-19 is teaching us about independence will help us to integrate our continent better so that we trade better, invest amongst ourselves better, and promote our growth and development as a people.
I hope we will be able to talk on how this how we can capitalize on this crisis to seize new opportunities.
See how well we can support countries and communities to be able to respond better, to provide food for themselves, but as well as they come back to see how they can get better jobs or they can get jobs and how we can help them.
We must develop a vaccine, and the vaccine has to be made very widely available in as free and as affordable and as easily distributed a way as is possible. So that there is optimism in the world that the economies can recover, that movement and economic activity can return.
Health system across the African continent is still very uneven. Universal health coverage is not a reality, and let's be frank, it will be very difficult for governments to finance in the near future national health services that can essentially be funded just from the public purse.
We are in the process of providing small loan assistance to petty traders and other marketers. In addition, we are working with commercial banks to mediate repayment of loans.
Right, the UBA Africa 2020 conversation there with world leaders by Tony Elumelu. Let's bring you COVID-19 global update. Over 100,000 cases of COVID-19 confirmed on the African continent as Americans flocked to beaches and lakes for Memorial Day weekend, flaunting restriction orders imposed to tackle the coronavirus outbreak. Let's join Uche Ugochukwu for the global update.
According to the figure released by the African Center for Disease Control, total confirmed coronavirus cases on the continent now stands at 110,900, recoveries 44,500, and confirmed coronavirus deaths is 3,300. Nigeria recorded 313 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. A breakdown indicates that Lagos has 148 cases, 36 in the Federal Capital Territory, 27 in Rivers, 19 in Edo. And below the ladder, we have 3 each in Akwa Ibom and Bayelsa, Niger 2 and Anambra 1, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 7,839, 2,263 discharged with 226 deaths. Elsewhere, the U.S. has more coronavirus cases than anywhere in the world. It has over 1.6 million known infections and is nearing 100,000 deaths linked to the virus. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe lifted a coronavirus state of emergency in Tokyo and 4 other remaining areas on Monday. India has restarted domestic air travel as the country recorded its highest daily total of 7,000 new COVID-19 infections. Malaysia reported 172 new coronavirus cases on Monday, most of them foreigners held at immigration depots, and taking the total number of infections in the country to 7,417. The Philippines Health Ministry on Monday reported 5 additional novel coronavirus deaths and 284 more infections. Cases of the coronavirus in Russia climbed to 353,427. It said the number of fatalities had risen by 92 overnight, taking the overall nationwide death toll from the virus to 3,633. And globally, Worldometer indicates the number of coronavirus cases has risen to 5,543,125, 347,439 deaths, and 2,323,068 have recovered as at 6 p.m. local time. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
And more on COVID-19 training to enhance capacity of health workers who are on the front line in the fight against COVID-19 has continued in Taraba State. This time, the Center for Initiative and Development, in collaboration with Nigeria Center for Disease Control, took the capacity building to the doorsteps of Federal Medical Center in Jalingo. Let's hear from Joseph Otson.
Very important to us because we are the healthcare providers, and it's a timely training for us to step it outside to see how we can manage this COVID-19 in our community.
And help to minimize the transmission from human to human, and as well help the affected persons to know what is important to do at the time of maybe quarantine.
Our passion is to ensure that our frontline healthcare workers are first of all protected through the knowledge they have on personal protective equipment and infection prevention control, and they have the necessary skills and competencies, knowledge on how to manage these patients when they come through the doors and the gates of our hospitals.
This 5 weeks workshop is to build capacity of health workers saddled with the responsibility of managing COVID-19 patients without jeopardizing personal health. The training, according to the organizers, is going on in 7 states, including Adamawa, Bauchi, Benue, Gombe, Nasarawa, Yobe, and Taraba State. Over 3,000 persons are expected to benefit from the training. In Jalingo, Joseph Sound Otsen, NTA News.
And in Enugu, the governors of the Southeast Zone have agreed to engage the Nigeria Center for Disease Control on the need to scale up testing of coronavirus in the zone, as the forum directs all Igbos living outside Igbo land to obey all extant COVID-19 orders, especially the presidential directive on interstate movement. In a communique issued by the forum after its meeting in Enugu, the governors also requested the Inspector General of Police to abide by the agreement reached with him on community policing composition in the Southeast Zone. Susan Eze reports.
In a 7-point communique presented by the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum and governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, the governors directed the people of the Southeast Zone to comply with the ban on interstate travels, the hygiene protocols and directives of their home governors and those of where they live, as the forum engages the National Center for Disease Control on the need to scale up COVID-19 testing in the Southeast. On security matters, the governors disagreed with the community policing composition formula contained in a recent communication to them from the Inspector General of Police.
The recent communication from the Inspector General of Police to our governors of Southeast on community policing composition is not in keeping with the agreement
of work at the Second Niger Bridge and the Akanibiam International Airport, Enugu. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
Let's go on a break. We're back shortly. Stay tuned.
Make your home the place to be with GoTV's super cool kids channels.
That sounds fun.
From funky friends that'll keep even the little ones busy.
All right, everybody, let's do this!
To learn as you watch educational shows for curious young minds.
You can do some amazing things.
There's plenty for everyone. Tune in to our kids shows and get everything you need to keep the kids entertained and learning the fun way. GoTV, live it, love it.
Thanks for being with us. Eid prayers were said at the various Jumaat mosques across Bidda Emirate in compliance with the Niger State government's directive on the Eid al-Fitr celebration. Esu Nukbe and Chairman Niger State Council of Traditional Rulers Alhaji Yahya Abubakar observed the 2-rakat prayer at the Usman Zaki Central Mosque in Bidda. Jones Ajay reports.
The Bidda Eid prayer ground was under lock, which prompted the Muslim faithful to observe the 2-rakat Eid prayer at the various Jumaat mosques. The chief imam of Bidda, Sheikh Adamu Yakatu, led the faithful in the prayer. Sheikh Adamu Yakatu prayed the Almighty to wipe away the global coronavirus disease. He urged the faithful not to forget all the lessons learned during the Ramadan fast and to also put it in practice. Etunupe and Chairman Niger State Council of Traditional Rulers Alhaji Yahya Abubakar described the coronavirus pandemic as a trying period that God will surely bring to an end. Yahya Abubakar implored his subjects to observe good personal and environmental hygiene so as to curtail the spread of COVID-19.
We hope and we pray Almighty Allah to direct our leaders, political leaders, to come out with a very, very formidable plan to ensure that all the sufferings that people have gone through actually have been catered for.
Yahya Abubakar then prayed God to accept all the supplications offered during the just concluded holy month of Ramadan. Jones Ajayi, NTA News.
As part of the activities marking this year's Eid al-Fitr, the Nigerian Air Force has organized 2020 Chief of Air Staff lunch for the officers and men of the force in Katsina. Abdulmalik Hassan reports.
The special reception for the officers and men from different military formations is aimed at expressing gratitude to individual and collective sacrifices to foster spirit of comradeship, as well boost the morale of the soldiers in protecting the territorial integrity of the country against any form of external aggression. Addressing the troops, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, represented by Air Officer Commanding Special Operations Command, Air Vice Marshal Charles Owo, commended the troops for marking this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration.
Notwithstanding, we should bear in mind that a lot is at stake in this war against banditry and kidnapping. We must therefore not allow ourselves to be taken unawares, and hence I enjoin all personnel to remain disciplined and not to relent in the effort towards ensuring safety and security of our citizens.
He said the force is committed to addressing the lingering security challenges in the state, which he said necessitated the deployment of the Air Force Special Forces to the frontline local government areas of Katsina State. Air Vice Marshal Charles Owo further commended the effort of the air officers for their commitment towards ensuring the security in the country, especially the Northwest. He urged them to comply with the health professionals' directive to guard themselves against the COVID-19 pandemic. In Katsina, Abdul Malik Hassan, NTA News.
And more on security, away from the Eid al-Fitr, the Nigerian military says the air task force, the air component of Operation Hadarin Daji, has neutralized close to 200 bandits in multiple airstrikes conducted at Ibrahim Maibai's camp in Jibia local government area of Katsina State and Kura in Zurmi local government area of Zamfara State. In a statement signed by Coordinator, Directorate of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Eneche, the airstrikes were executed on 22nd and 23rd May 2020 after a series of intelligence missions led to the confirmation that the two locations were being used as hideouts for some notorious bandit leaders, whilst also serving as collection points for rusted cattle. The air component employing Nigerian Air Force ground attack aircraft and helicopter gunships destroyed the makeshift structures in the camps, killing the bandits' leaders and their fighters. Human intelligence sources later confirmed that close to 200 armed bandits were killed in the airstrikes at the target locations. The Chief of the Air Staff has directed that additional assets be deployed to cover Kaduna, Niger, Nasarawa and Kogi states to frustrate any attempt of the bandits to relocate to adjoining state. 50 trafficked girls and 19 stranded Nigerians who were successfully evacuated from Lebanon have arrived to Nigeria. Minister of Foreign Affairs Jeffrey Onyama, who confirmed this in a tweet, said the evacuation was with the financial and logistic support of the Lebanese government and Lebanese community in Nigeria. He expressed profound gratitude to the Lebanese ambassador in Nigeria, Hossam Diad, and Nigerian ambassador in Lebanon, Goni Zanabura. On the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who will not have to attend the next session of his trial on July 19. The Jerusalem District Court ruled on Sunday. The ruling was handed down by Jerusalem District Court Judge Rivka Friedman-Feldman, the head of the three-judge panel overseeing Netanyahu's trial, at the conclusion of the 50-minute arraignment hearing, during which Netanyahu pleaded innocent to the charges of fraud, bribery and breach of trust. President Muhammadu Buhari has commiserated with the media industry, particularly Nigeria Union of Journalists and Nigeria Guild of Editors, over the passing of the Saturday editor of New Telegraph, Wahid Bakari. Presidential statement says the president sent condolences to family of the deceased and management of New Telegraph newspapers, describing the editor's death as a collective loss to the media and the nation that he served passionately with his talent. The president prays that God will receive the soul of the departed and comfort all those who mourn him. Let's talk sport. Nigeria Volleyball Federation to give palliatives to the National League clubs across the country to reduce the effect of COVID-19. Olumide Aguntola reports that the sport writers also benefited from the palliatives.
Just like in other spheres of life, this is not the best of time for volleyball players and officials due to the impact of coronavirus. This leads to the Federation's resolve to share over 1 million naira palliatives to the 18 national male and female volleyball clubs in Nigeria. The president of the Nigeria Volleyball Federation, Musa Nimrod, said the palliatives will, among other things, strengthen the ties between the federation and state associations as well as clubs.